They rejected Earth without even reading the file. That's the part that gets me. Not the arrogance of it, though there was plenty of that. Not the dismissal, not the condescension in the form letter, not even the checkbox they ticked that read. Simply, biosphere, manageable. No, what gets me is that they sent a delegation to prove they were right. They wanted witnesses. They wanted documentation. They wanted the record to show, officially, that Sol 3 was nothing. A temperate little rock with soft gravity and a tame little food chain and absolutely no business applying to the Deathworld Alliance. They got documentation, all right. They got 30 days of it. And when Senior Auditor Vasethri filed his final report, all 460 annotated pages of it, he included a personal note at the end. It read, "We came to prove Earth was harmless. We were wrong." The letter arrived at the Sol 3 Observation Bureau on a Tuesday. It was not the first rejection. The Alliance had been turning down Earth's application for 11 years, each time with a different flavor of bureaucratic dismissal. The first rejection cited insufficient megafauna threat density. The second noted that Earth's apex predators were non-sapient and therefore categorically unqualified as existential threats. The third, and this one was a personal favorite among the Bureau staff, who had taped it to the break room wall, described Earth's weather systems as energetic but navigable. Navigable. They called a Category 5 hurricane navigable. The 11th rejection was different only in that it contained an addendum. Someone in the Alliance's classification bureau, no one ever found out who, had apparently lost a bet, or an argument, or possibly their mind, because buried in the standard boilerplate was a single extra paragraph. In the interest of closing this matter conclusively and without further petitions, the Bureau will dispatch a Grade 3 evaluation delegation to Sol 3. If the planet fails to meet Category 3 minimums in 3 or more assessment categories, this application will be permanently closed. The Bureau staff read this 3 times. Then they called Dr. Anya Korvath, their best field liaison, and told her to pack for a month. "What should I prepare?" she asked. "Nothing," said Bureau Director Osei, who was smiling for the first time in 11 years. "Just take them outside." Senior Auditor Vasethri arrived expecting to be bored. "This is documented." He said it out loud to his delegation as the shuttle broke atmosphere over the North American continent. He had done 43 planetary evaluations. He had walked the crystalline killing fields of Sheriff Prime. He had cataloged the apex predators of more death, creatures the size of buildings, which had tried to eat his vehicle and partially succeeded. He had breathed filtered air on 20 worlds that would have killed him in minutes. Earth, his preliminary scan told him, had breathable air, moderate gravity, and a surface temperature range his body could survive without a suit. A formality, he told his team, as they descended. 3 days. For at most. We document the deficiencies, file the permanent closure, and leave. Auditor Preelshaw, his biosphere specialist, agreed. She had her report half-drafted already. She'd filled in the boilerplate. Their liaison, a small human female with mud already on her boots and a calm, slightly amused expression, was waiting on the landing pad. "Welcome to Earth," said Dr. Korvath. "We're very glad you came." Vasethri noted, later, that she did not seem nervous. He thought, at the time, that this was because she had nothing to prove. He was correct, but not in the way he meant. They were on the ground for 11 minutes before the first incident. Preelshaw saw it first, a shape in the tree line, moving faster than something that large had any right to move. She had her scanner up before Vasethri turned around. 200 kilograms, she said. 48 kilometers per hour. No armorplating. No venom. Claws rated to... She paused. To open standard cargo containers. The bear stopped. It was perhaps 30 meters away. It raised its head and tested the air with a nose that, Vasethri would learn later, could detect scent from 30 kilometers away, identify what something had eaten 3 days ago, and distinguish between individual members of species it had never encountered. It looked at them. They looked at it. Then it continued on its way, unhurried, enormous, completely indifferent. "Is that common?" Vasethri asked. "Out here?" "Sure," said Anya. They're not aggressive unless surprised or threatened. Or if it's a mother with cubs. Or early spring, they're hungry coming out of hibernation. She considered. Or late fall, building fat reserves. Or if you smell like food. Or if you run. Don't run. When is it safe? She smiled. It's always roughly safe if you know what you're doing. The bear has its own priorities. We're not really on its list today. Today, Vasethri repeated. Today, she confirmed cheerfully. He filed his first field note that evening. It read, in its entirety, revised timeline. This will take more than 3 days. The research team they embedded with was studying predator-prey dynamics. The humans called their study site a national park, a term Tanvas, the delegation's xenobiologist, asked Anya to explain. A place we set aside, she said, where we don't interfere, where we let the natural processes run without human intervention. The natural processes, Tanvas said carefully, being death and consumption, among other things, yeah. And you protect this area? Legally protected, federally designated. We send rangers to make sure nothing disturbs it. You protect the killing. Anya thought about it. We protect the balance. The killing is part of the balance. That afternoon, they watched a wolf pack work. Tanvas had studied predator coordination on 6 worlds. He had never seen anything like this. The pack communicated in silence across distances of over a kilometer. Not with signals, not with sounds, with nothing he could detect, and drove a single ungulate away from the herd using what he could only describe as deliberate misdirection. They let it run in one direction. Then they were already there. They had predicted where it would go, and they were waiting. The hunt lasted 20 minutes. The kill was precise. One wolf took a kick to the foreleg and went down, its leg broken audibly from 100 meters away. The pack did not leave it. They ate first. Then they stood guard, rotating in and out of protective position around the injured wolf, while it rested and the leg began to swell. 3 of them stayed through the night. Tanva sat in the observation blind long after the others had gone back to the station. When he finally returned, Vasethri asked what he was thinking. They cooperate, Tanva said. Not just a hunt. After. They cooperate after. He set down his scanner. I've cataloged 31 predator species across 11 worlds. They cooperate to hunt. They separate after. Caloric competition. He was quiet for a moment. These ones stay. Vasethri filed his second note. Cooperative predator models beyond existing classification parameters. Request additional assessment time. They had not been warned about the storm because the humans did not consider it worth warning about. This is the part Vasethri returned to again and again in his final report. Not the storm itself, though the storm was extraordinary. What he returned to was the casualness. The way Anya checked her communication device, said, "Oh, there's a system coming," and had them in a reinforced vehicle and moving within 90 seconds. Not panicked, not alarmed, moving with the practiced efficiency of someone who had done this many times, who would do it many more times, for whom this was simply a thing that happened on Tuesdays. The tornado formed while they were driving. Vasethri saw it through the vehicle window, a column of rotating air descending from a sky that had turned the specific shade of green-black that human meteorologists had learned over centuries to treat as a message. The wind speed outside exceeded 170 kilometers per hour. The noise was a frequency he felt in his secondary chest cavity. The tornado removed a stand of century-old trees from the earth the way he might remove lint from a garment. Anya drove. She glanced at the tornado with professional interest. She ate a nutritional bar. Good rotation on that one, she said. Probably an F3, maybe touching F4 at the tip. Good, said Priyal Shah, in a voice that suggested she had temporarily lost access to any other words. Good to see. They're fascinating structures. The pressure differential at the funnel can drop 60 hectopascals in under a meter of horizontal distance. She glanced at it again. Beautiful. Actually, if you're not under it. After the storm passed, she drove them back. Where the tornado had crossed, a strip of land 400 meters wide and 3 kilometers long had been flattened to bare soil. Everything above ground level was simply gone. The trees, trees that had been growing since before some members of the delegation species had achieved spaceflight, were scattered like dropped sticks across a kilometer of churned earth. Anya crouched in the mud at the edge of the devastation and pointed to something. Small green shoots, already pushing through. Opportunists, she said. All this light, all this open ground, all this turned soil. They've been waiting in the seed bank for exactly this. She stood. Different species will colonize. Meadow plants first, then shrubs, then pioneer trees. The whole community shifts. In a decade, it'll be different. In 50 years, you won't be able to tell anything happened. She looked at the destruction with something that was not quite respect and not quite affection, but lived in the neighborhood of both. The storm is part of it. Everything here is part of it. Tanvas wrote in his personal log that night. The destruction event is not an interruption of the ecosystem. It is a mechanism of the ecosystem. The planet uses its own violence as a nutrient delivery system. I do not have a classification framework for this. On the 12th day, Preel Shah got sick. They had been careful. Every precaution had been taken. Filtered water, treated food, atmospheric membranes during the first 3 days before they confirmed breathability. Preel Shah's immune system had successfully resisted infection on 4 Deathworld assessments and had been chemically reinforced before departure. Something in the local water, filtered, treated, tested, and rated safe by 3 separate instruments, disagreed with her tertiary stomach lining anyway. Medical Officer Harith Sal identified the pathogen within 2 hours. It was a bacterium of extraordinary adaptability, capable of modifying its surface proteins every 48 hours to evade immune detection. It had presumably been in the water supply at trace levels, had survived treatment because it had encountered that particular treatment before and had evolved a partial resistance, and had found Preel Shah's tertiary stomach architecture novel enough to be interesting. Preel Shah was feverish and miserable within 6 hours. The human medic, Femi, 26 years old, the research station support staff, who handled this with the calm of someone dealing with a minor scheduling conflict, gave her a small tablet and a container of clear fluid and told her to rest. What is in the tablet? Harris Sal demanded. Basically electrolytes and anti-nausea compound. Let her immune system work. She'll bounce back. Her immune system is actively losing. It'll adapt. They always do. Femi paused. Well, usually, Preel Shah recovered in 3 days. Her immune system did, as promised, adapt. It had restructured its detection protocols in response to the pathogen's evasion strategy. She was, at the end, more resistant to that bacterium than she had been before. She was also furious. Harith Sal spent the evening after her recovery sitting alone in the station's common room with a scanner, counting the pathogens he could detect in the ambient air. He stopped at 67, not because there weren't more, because he needed to stop. He found Vasethri later that night. They breathe this, he said, every day. They breathe all of this, and their immune systems are in active conflict with dozens of organisms simultaneously, and they don't know it. It is not a crisis. It is not an emergency. It is Tuesday. They evolved here, Vasethri said. So did the pathogens, Harith Sal said. For a billion years, both sides. The arms race never stopped. He looked at his scanner, and they're still standing. The hospital was Tanvas's idea. He wanted, he said, to understand the infrastructure of biological maintenance, how humans manage the continuous damage their world inflicted on their bodies. He expected something modest, a medical outpost, a triage facility. He was taken to a regional hospital with 18 floors for 112 beds, 11 operating theaters, and a staff of 900 people who worked in rotating shifts so that the building was never, not for a single hour, at less than full operational capacity. This is one hospital, Vasethri said. There are 6,000 registered hospitals in this country alone, said their guide, a hospital administrator named Dr. Chun, who delivered this information with the mild pride of someone describing their local sports team's record. They walked through the trauma bay, the emergency department, the infectious disease ward, currently treating 14 separate conditions, 3 of which were bacterial strains that had developed antibiotic resistance within the last 18 months. The oncology floor, an entire floor 12 rooms, dedicated to treating what happened when the human cellular replication process, which was aggressive enough to heal broken bones in weeks, occasionally misfired and turned against the body itself. Your own cells attack you? Priel Shah asked. Sometimes. The same drive that makes us heal fast can go wrong. We work on it. They passed a mental health wing. Harriet South stopped. This is for psychological treatment. Psychiatric and therapeutic care, yes. What fills it? Dr. Chun gave a careful answer about trauma, about chronic stress, about the cumulative effects of living in a world that was, despite all precautions, persistently dangerous. About the minds that processed decades of pressure and sometimes needed help doing so. The world hurts their minds, Harith South said. Not a question. Life here is demanding. We take care of each other. On the way out, a surgeon paused in the corridor to let them pass. She was scrubbing her hands between procedures, and she smiled at their group with the easy friendliness of someone who had learned to be pleasant in small windows. First time visiting a hospital? She asked. We have medical facilities, Vasethri said. Not quite at this scale. She laughed, a short, warm sound. We're always behind. Something new comes along, you fix it, something else shows up. It's a good game, though. She looked at her hands. I love my job. She went back into the operating theater. Vasethri stood in the corridor for a long moment. A good game. He thought about this for the rest of the day. On the 24th day, a child wandered up to their equipment table. She was perhaps 8 years old. She had mud on both knees and a scrape across her palm sealed with a small adhesive bandage. She was alone. She had apparently wandered from the nearby settlement because she was curious about the equipment in the same way she was curious about everything, which was to say completely and without reservation. She was holding something in cupped hands. She showed it to Priel Shah. It was a beetle, black body, red thoracic marking, approximately 4 centimeters long. Priel Shah, whose threat assessment reflexes had been operating at elevated sensitivity for 2 weeks, scanned it before she could stop herself. Mildly venomous. Contact irritant on the red marking. Bite capable of breaking skin. The child was holding it with her bare hands. I found it, the child said. She examined it with the focused intensity of a scientist who had not yet learned to be bored by anything. That's, Priel Shah composed herself. That's a remarkable specimen. I know. I'm going to show my dad. He knows all the bugs. She tilted her head, studying the beetle. Do you think it bites? Priel Shah looked at the small creature and its mild venom and its breaking skin capability and the 8-year-old child holding it in her cupped palms like a gift. Yes, she said. It does. The child considered this with the same seriousness she might apply to deciding what to have for lunch. I'll be careful. She walked away. The delegation stood in silence. Finally, Tan Vas said, They learn young. They don't learn it, Vasethri said. He was watching the child pick her way back across the field, the beetle still cupped in her hands, unhurried, unafraid. It isn't knowledge. It's assumption. The world is dangerous and interesting. That's just how the world is. There's nothing to be afraid of that you can't also be curious about. He wrote in his personal log that night. Not a field note. Not official record. Just words. They raise their children here. In this. With all of this. And the children grow up thinking it is normal. Because it is normal. It is their normal. I keep trying to find the edge of their adaptation, where the danger finally exceeds their capacity. I have not found it yet. I am beginning to suspect there is no edge. On the last evening, Anya took them to a ridge above the river valley. It was by every objective metric the delegation had beautiful. The light fell at an angle that turned the river into broken amber. The deer picked their way along the far bank with the particular grace of things that knew they were prey and had made peace with it. A wolf called somewhere below, and another answered, and the sound carried up the valley walls and dissipated slowly into the cooling air. Why do you come here? Vasethri asked. You know what's in that valley. You've shown us. Why do you come here for leisure? Anya looked at the valley for a long time. Because it's honest, she said. It doesn't pretend. Everything down there is working as hard as it can, all the time, just to keep going. The deer, the wolves, the beetles, the trees, the bacteria in the soil, all of it all at once, everything trying. She was quiet, and somehow it mostly works. Somehow all of that trying adds up to something that's been running for 4 billion years. You feel part of it, Vasethri said. We are part of it. She said it simply, without drama. We're one of the things trying. One of the better equipped ones, lately. But still, she watched the deer. You don't come to a place like this to relax. You come to remember what you are. Vasethri looked at the valley, at the deer, at the shadows moving in the far tree line that were probably wolves, at the hawk wheeling on thermals 500 meters above, reading the ground below for small warm things, at the river full of organisms competing for the same water, the same light, the same oxygen, at the human woman standing next to him, watching all of it with something that was not fear and not pride, but lived in the territory between them. You are very good at this, he said, at surviving here. She looked at him with genuine surprise, then genuine pleasure, the uncomplicated pleasure of someone who had been paid an honest compliment. Thanks, she said. We've had a lot of practice. Official classification report. Deathworld Alliance Classification Bureau. Classification recommendation. World, Sol, 3, native designation, Earth. Previous status. Application denied. Insufficient severity for Deathworld classification. Recommended status. Deathworld, Category 7. Filed by Senior Auditor Vasethri, 3rd Claw. Category 7 is the highest classification in our standard framework. We have previously awarded it to worlds with active volcanic surface geology, hyperpredatory megafauna that cannot be stopped by standard crew-rated weaponry, and atmospheric conditions that kill unprotected visitors within 2 minutes of exposure. Sol 3 does not have these things. Or rather, it does not rely on them. What Sol 3 has is worse. Sol 3 operates through sustained, comprehensive, multi-vector attrition. Its predators are fast, intelligent, cooperative, and continent-spanning. Dozens of apex species on a single landmass, none of them in conflict because the ecosystem is rich enough to sustain all of them simultaneously. Its pathogens are ancient, varied, and adaptable, engaged in an arms race with the native sapiens that has lasted 4 billion years and shows no sign of resolution. Its weather systems are powerful and fundamentally unpredictable beyond a narrow window. Its biosphere is not merely hostile, but actively competitive at every scale, from soil bacteria to megafauna, from viral load to apex predator. Any single one of these systems, in isolation, would merit serious classification consideration. Together, they have produced something the committee must understand before dismissing this application one final time. They have produced the humans. Humans are not an anomaly on Sol 3. They are its logical conclusion. They have inherited every adaptive strategy the planet tested across 4 billion years of relentless selection, and then added conscious ingenuity on top. They heal from injuries that would end other sapients and return, voluntarily, to the same risks. They identify the most dangerous regions of their world and designate them protected wilderness, then visit for recreation. They build structures against catastrophic weather events, survive the destruction of those structures, and rebuild in the same location. They have lived alongside epidemic disease for their entire recorded history and responded with a medical industrial infrastructure so aggressive that the pathogens are now evolving to keep up with them. Their children handle venomous insects out of curiosity. Their elderly climb the highest peaks on the planet for sport. Their scientists enter the territories of the largest marine predators their oceans have ever produced and take notes from small open boats. They experience fear. We confirm this. They are not neurologically incapable of threat response. They simply do not consider fear a reason to stop. I have classified worlds for 31 years. I have walked the obsidian killing flats of Mordeath. I have observed the megafauna of Sherith Prime from inside a reinforced vehicle while it attempted to remove the reinforcement. I have cataloged the kill corridors of the Veth Reaches and the acid fog zones of Paleth and the crystalline tooth forests of whatever they're calling the 7th moon of Carithvel this decade. I have never, until now, left a world feeling that the world was not the most dangerous thing on it. Sol 3 is not a dangerous planet that happens to have humans on it. Sol 3 is a dangerous planet that made humans. The distinction matters. Category 7. Effective immediately. I further recommend a standing advisory attached to all future Sol 3 contact protocols, marked required reading for all personnel at any rank. They're not hostile. They are not warlike by Deathworld standards. They will likely offer you food, show you something they find beautiful, and ask curious questions about where you come from. They will be warm. They will be generous. They will be genuinely, disarmingly kind. Do not mistake this for softness. They have been in an unbroken war with their own world since before they could speak, and they are winning. The planet that forged them is classified Category 7. They defeated it. They live there. They raise children there. Mind yourself accordingly. Senior Auditor Vasethri, 3rd Claw. Classification Bureau, Deathworld Alliance. Filed, Standard Year 7441.3. Personal note, appended to official record. Dr. Corvith sent a follow-up message asking if Prielshaw had recovered fully. I told her yes. She sent back a photograph of the valley at sunrise and wrote, "Good. Come back sometime. I am considering it. I should not be considering it. That, I think, is the point.